TradeFi Network, we provide the opportunities for the issuers to list their product on our platform, where investors can track the liquidity, the asset performance, the risk associated with the assets, all at the single place, and thus can make better decisions.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the XDC Minute Podcast, where we talk about the future of blockchain and technology. I'm Rebecca, your host. It's been a while since our last podcast, so it's great to be back with another exciting episode. Today, I'm joined by a special guest who wears two important hats: blockchain engineer at XDC Network and the lead developer behind TradeFi Network. In this episode, we'll explore how the platform works, what's being built, and what's next for RWAs on XDC. Before we begin, a quick reminder: nothing in this video is financial or investment advice. Please do your own research. So let's get started. Tarun, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast, Rebecca.
It's lovely to have you in the podcast. So let's kick started. Tarun, can you please tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm coming from a technology background and I have more than 18 years of experience. I have the diverse range of domain experience as well as the technologies. From last 4 years, I'm working the blockchain, and at XDC, I'm focusing mainly around the tokenized products and the RWAs and the DeFi.
It's great to have another, blockchain expert, an engineer expert at the podcast, and even a DeFi expert. So, Tarun, let's talk about TradeFi Network. What is TradeFi Network?
TradeFi Network is actually a data and discovery layer of tokenized trade finance. It makes the real-world asset on-chain visible and verifiable. You can think of it as like a Bloomberg-style view, but for on-chain finance. On TradeFi Network, we have the broad category of assets that's being listed, like real-world asset that encompasses or that includes the private credit, the bonds, the tokenized gold, stablecoin. USDC is actually one of the key issuers or rather offering on our platform. We also have structured products like ETP, issued by 21 Share, currently listing in Europe, and we have a fast evolving DeFi ecosystem thanks to our DeFi team, and more importantly, we have the tokenized walls. These are very important because these are the institutional walls that invest in the real world strategies like the minings and GPU centers. So they are the actually real yield source, not just the DeFi. Apart from that, on TradeFi Network, we're also showing the staking and masternode information. So we display the yields from the staking infrastructure that you can generate, that you can get the passive yields by staking. And the masternode set, which actually these masternode infrastructure is making the XDC ecosystem resilient and secure.
Very interesting take, Bloomberg style kind of view for on-chain analytics. Finance. And I know you mentioned a lot of least what can be shown on the TradeFi Network, but does it cover stablecoins?
It does cover, indeed, actually. As I said, USDC is actually one of the biggest stablecoin on our platform. And yes, it's a major key offering that actually, because USDC is very critical as a settlement layer in the trade finance activity. So having it on our platform and growing regularly is actually a key component.
All the things that you mentioned is a clear overview of, especially how you're bringing on-chain data and verifiable analytics into one single website or one single page, right? So let's move on to the next part. What is TradeFi Network trying to solve?
Yeah, so see, there is a problem that these private credit opportunities and the real world asset data, it is fragmented and it's not easily accessible, and because they're not easily accessible, it's very hard to interpret the data and make any investment friendly decision out of it. So this is the core problem that TradeFi Network is trying to solve. Yeah.
And why do you think transparency plays a key role?
So yeah, transparency is very important, because the institutional capital doesn't move on the hype and narrative. Rather, it needs the trustworthy data. And as more and more tokenization is happening and the tokenization adoption is happening, this on-chain verifiable data is even more important. And this is where the TradeFi Network actually fit in perfectly, which is filling this gap.
I think transparency, and verifiable data is not just important for institutions, but also for retailers. But I think, again, great point, bringing fragmented RWA into a single structured view
Right.
helps, investors to make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk about how participants can actually, engage with the platform. So one of TradeFi Network's goal is to list private markets, right? And how does this platform enables this?
Now, the data accessibility is a big problem, and in the private credit market, it's even a bigger problem. The data is very it's behind a closed door. It's not very easily accessible. So at the TradeFi network, we provide the opportunities for the issuers to list their product on our platform, where investors can track the liquidity, the asset performance, the risk associated with the assets, all at the single place, and thus can make better decisions. So yeah, we are bridging the gap between the tokenization issuers and the investors to give a single unified view.
I think that's a great way, to showcase private market opportunities in a transparent and compliant way.
Right.
So yeah, you're improving visibility and also making opportunities more accessible to the investors. So building on that, Tarun, let's talk about why XDC is the right infrastructure for this. Because for private markets, private participants, be it if you're an asset manager, if you're a fintech or a trade finance company, how can they use TradeFi Network?
Yeah, so these players, the market participants, they can list their offerings or their products on the TradeFi network. We fetch the on-chain analytics from their products and displaying in a meaningful way, so that the investors and the institutions can see it, and it's visibly available on the dashboard, and they can do on-chain verifiable. It's on-chain verifiable as well. The XDC network actually it's an infrastructure layer. It's a core infrastructure layer that enable everything. Like it enable the issuance of the assets on-chain. So it works as an infrastructure layer, and TradeFi network work as a data layer sitting on the top of the XDC network.
And how do you think they can leverage, XDC's smart contracts infrastructure?
Yeah. So since inception, XDC was built around the real trade finance use cases, and that's the USP of the XDC network. So these market participants can make use of the rich ecosystem that XDC offer. Apart from just the infrastructure provider, XDC also provide the rich TradeFi ecosystem.
Amazing. I think that's how, XDC Network makes real world data transparent and structured for investors. Now, looking ahead, let's explore more about TradeFi Network as more assets move on chain. So there's a growing interest in blockchain for private credit and alternative investments. Why do you think XDC is well suited for this?
See, these private credit and the tokenized assets, they need a blockchain that is cost efficient and quick in settlement. And XDC fulfill both of these criteria. But more importantly, as I said earlier, the XDC is focused around the real business use cases, not just the hype-oriented token. So basically, XDC provide the perfect platform where the issuers basically can list their products.
Yeah, I think, again, on the two layers, you combine the architecture of XDC being fast and scalable. And of course, in business side, the data that you're showing is actually, very structured and very transparent. Now, let's talk about the exciting part. What's coming next? Tell us what's the roadmap of TradeFi Network? How does it look?
Yeah, of course, evolution is a part. How you're going to improve. So basically, our next, we want to improve on the two side of the product. One is from the issuer side. We want to make sure that we make the onboarding, the new asset onboarding easier and in more structured way. And from the investor side, we want to increase the data discovery, analytics, and comparison, so that investors can see the different categories of statistics, and they can compare and take the best investment decisions. So these are the two areas we are doing. We already have a broad range of categories that we're listing on the TradeFi network, and we are expecting more of the tokenized trade finance product, institutional RWA vaults. These are the categories we want more, and more stable coins adoption.
That is a very strong direction, Tarun, and especially you're making it more seamless for both issuers and investors to interact within the platform. So, before we wrap up the podcast, Tarun, any final message for our community, for our builders, or to viewers who wants to list their opportunities to TradeFi Network? How do we find you?
Sure. Thanks for giving me this question. This is what I was waiting for. So, as a builder, if you're building on a tokenized product, just don't build it. Make sure your data is visible, and this is where TradeFi Network is your place. We are the marketplace. We're filling the gap between the issuer or the builder and the investors. So make sure that you deploy a product on XDC, and we'll pull this data, show it in a meaningful, structured way, so that investors can see your offerings.
Great message to end the podcast, Tarun. Yeah, I agree with you. Making data visible and transparent is, one of the keys to mass adoption. So, Tarun, thank you so much for being part of the podcast, for explaining us what TradeFi Network is and what is, the future of RWAs at XDC
Thank you.
Network.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So yes, to our viewers out there, if you want to know more about XDC Network, please go to zinfin.org. Or if you do have questions, please post them to our forum called xdc.dev. Please follow our official social media channels. See you on the next one.